1871 Silver Lake Road in Cary, Illinois holds more than an historic farmhouse. Captured within the 140 acres are memories from 3 generations who toiled the earth and soils and carved out a living in southeastern McHenry County. Every aspect of the farm, the history, the struggles, and the industrial feats echo through time and serve as a reminder of one of the family's ties to the land that expanded over 135 years. This is the story of the PIchen family. It began in 1871 when Frank PIchen, at the age of 38, and his wife, Antonia Janik, traveled to Barrington Center from their Bohemian homeland with 7 children in tow to settle on a farm in Cary, Illinois. Soon after arriving, the PIchen's eldest son, John, needed space of his own and in 1882 rented some land just a half-mile south from a local farmer, Abe Goodwin. And so it came to pass that John PIchen would join a great age of agricultural expansion that embodied the spirit of the Midwest near the turn of the century. Working the fertile Illinois prairie soil, John created a life for himself in the only manner that he knew how, long days filled with hard work and heavy lifting. He married Mary Suki and had 2 children, Jenny and William. And when Abe Goodwin passed away in 1906, John purchased the entire 120 acres and would later add another 20. Thus the land became known as the PIchen family farm. John's son, William, would eventually become the second PIchen to run the farm. After trying his hand in threshing in the Dakotas and working at the Akron tire factory in Ohio and at a milk factory in Wakanda, William settled down after he met Mary Frances Hasek, whose family owned a tailoring store in Chicago. The two married in 1914, and William returned to his farming roots. William's farming practices differed greatly from that of his father's. Where John was old-fashioned, William was industrious and known for using technological advancements to help modernize the farm. It was William who removed many of the older buildings that once stood on the property and expanded the big barn to the east in 1931, and then again to the west in 1939, thus allowing for 50 Holstein cows to be held at a time, as well as a large area for storing hay.
Well, it was just a small center barn, it wasn't big enough. So my dad added on the east side and the west side, It was only half of that one time.
As the farm changed in appearance, so too did the PIchen family. William and Mary had 3 children, Valerian, Evelyn, and Harry. Although with the passing of time the faces changed and the farm practices became modernized, the core beliefs that hard work and that enterprising spirit would pay off remained the basic foundation of the PIchen family farm life throughout the generations. The youngest of William's children, Harry, was born in 1922 when the population of Cary totaled just about 750 neighbors. Like his father and grandfather, Harry saw the town change around him and witnessed the population boom after World War II. Life on the farm. Fortunately, when the stock market crash hit in 1929, the PIchens were barely affected. They remained well off during the Depression primarily because their farm had been paid off. They raised their own food and were for the most part self-sufficient. By the time World War II came, the government wanted as much production as possible to feed the war effort. This allowed Harry to avoid the draft by being a contributor to home front efforts working the crop fields, as long as he kept the government informed about his farming responsibilities every 3 months. Many farmers benefited from the high prices for commodities caused by the war, and the PIchens were no exception. Just before the onset of the war, William had the foresight to buy a tractor, combine, baler, wagon, and other necessary farming equipment. So during the war years when farming equipment was not being manufactured and was thus scarce and unavailable to many farmers, the PIchens were able to help out their local farmers who went without. During the early 1930s and before the outbreak of World War II, the PIchen raised 1,200 chickens in a 2-story structure on the north side of the farmstead. They gathered and sold their eggs and butchered chickens for local restaurants. But during the war, the money to be made was in hogs because the meat could be more easily preserved and shipped. So the PIchens converted the chicken building into a hog house. Now, during the 1930s and 40s, it was also common for farmers to cooperatively own a threshing ring to cut grain such as wheat, oats, or barley from the stems. The ring was comprised of a threshing machine and a tractor to power it. However, enterprising young William bought his own thresher and custom threshing for other farmers who would pay him per bushel for the service. True to their nature of adopting new technological advances, the PIchens were one of the first farm families to own a hay baler. This advancement greatly increased the amount of hay that could be stored in a barn. Being one of the few farmers in the area with this technology, the PIchens baled hay all over the county from 1941 to 1948. They baled hay for their own use as well as offering some for sale, yet another way the farm supported its operation. When it came time for the farm to pass through another generation's hands, the job fell to the youngest PIchen, Harry. Much like William, Harry tried his hand at working outside the realm of farming as well. He drove the school bus and did factory work, but he too returned to the farm. In 1949, Harry married Helen Klebs. During this time, while busy attending to his farming responsibilities, Harry also found time to operate rental homes and was avidly involved with real estate, buying and selling as many as 29 properties. Together, he and Helen built 3 homes between 1949 and 1960, and even furnished them, yet they never moved into any of them. If Helen was disappointed with this, Harry didn't say. However, Harry shared that he never really had any intention of leaving. The connection to the PIchen family farm was much too strong. And to mention the idea of ever breaking up the farm, now that was unthinkable. Harry would get frequent offers from people offering to buy his property for the purpose of subdividing it for a housing development, but he always declined. It wasn't until 2007, at the age of 85, that Harry decided to sell the entire 140 acres to McHenry County Conservation District, where the land has now become a part of the larger 478 acres protected within the Hollows Conservation Area, where it would be preserved intact and the stories captured as part of the area's history. The PIchen family knew very well the blood, the dust, and the mud which a farm family faced. It is the kind of toil that very few today can comprehend, let alone be able to endure. However, what comes with that is a connection to the animals, to the community of neighbors, to the land, to live a lifetime on a piece of property, to walk every square foot of its soil, to feel the breezes of the seasons, to know the calls of the songbirds that migrate through, to toil the soils of the earth where your family has left their footprints for over 135 years is what legacies are made of. The land remembers their touch. The neighbors still recall the family name. The memories will be preserved.